This is Nathalia Alport Graham. This is Mariah Aquino Truss. This is Grace Warnock. Think of one word you would use to describe each of these ladies. Did disabled come to mind? If one of these ladies were in, I don't know, a wheelchair, crutches, or carried around an oxygen tank, would your answer have been different? Around 10% of the United States population has a medical condition considered to be an invisible disability, according to Disabled World. In the Americans with Disabilities Act, a person who has an invisible disability has a physical or mental impairment that substantially limits one or more major life activities. It's just like it sounds. These disabilities are not immediately apparent to others, which leads to many comments like, "Oh, you must be faking it," or "You have to be in a wheelchair to be disabled." To many people, not seeing is not believing. Nathalia was denied special assistance on an airplane flight because she doesn't look disabled enough. The lady at the airport thought she was just another person who showed up day of and requested assistance. Nathalia has Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which limits her movement and causes her chronic pain, among other disabilities. Mariah has to use a wheelchair sometimes, even though she looks perfectly fine. Other kids mock her daily on why she needs it. Mariah has juvenile arthritis that leaves her so weak that she needs a wheelchair or crutches because her pain is too much. Grace gets dirty looks when she uses a disabled restroom, and people make crude jokes about it. Grace has Crohn's disease, which leaves her needing to go to the bathroom a lot. Because others cannot see the pain these girls go through, they refuse to recognize them as people of importance. I feel that Amy Valeris puts the hidden disability experience into words nicely. People with invisible disabilities must choose when to disclose and make disability visible, and when to pass and give society the impression of able-bodiedness. They are shamed into passing as able-bodied. They are shamed into non-accommodating circumstances just to please others. Seeing someone use a handicap parking space but walking out of their car looking perfectly healthy looks suspicious. If someone isn't disabled, they shouldn't get to use a handicap parking space. But what if this person has fainting spells or can't walk long distances or has a hidden illness? Seeing someone who has to make accommodations for themselves is not the right time to judge a book by its cover. Do you think the boy who has to sit down after a minute is lazy? Or do you think the girl who has to use the disabled bathroom is only doing it because it's a bigger stall? Or do you think the guy who has to have someone carry his backpack every day is just complaining that it's too heavy? Everybody's guilty of skimming the book. To me, the they are a we. I have a hip problem called femoral acetabular impingement syndrome. It's a long, complicated medical term for my hips aren't right and I have pain all the time. I can't stand for more than 8-ish minutes at a time without needing to sit down. Can't run for more than 5 minutes without feeling shooting pain in my hips. I can't even bend down sometimes to tie my shoe. This is my invisible disability. I ask my friends if, after walking for a bit, if we can sit down and take a breather. They tell me that we didn't walk for a long time and that I shouldn't be lazy. They don't understand that my hips feel like they're going to give out. Trying to get medically excused by nurses is a nightmare. I'm a healthy, smart 16-year-old girl. What am I doing with a gym exclusion note? When I had hip surgery and had to have a handicap parking sign, people would give me dirty looks as I walked into the mall or grocery store. I walked somewhat fine with a slight limp, but I definitely didn't look disabled. My invisible disability is made out to be illegitimate by my peers and adults in my life. Even my friends claim that I'm being lazy because I can't walk for more than 5 minutes without a break. Sometimes I get angry and yell because I want someone outside of my family and doctors to make me feel validated. But when I try to speak out, I'm branded as a liar, a complainer, a fraud. I'm not in a wheelchair. I use crutches sometimes, but even for them, it isn't enough. Luckily for me and my fellow 10%, there's a new wave of hope. Mariah hosts carnivals for kids with juvenile arthritis. Grace is using her talent to redesign bathroom signs to be more inclusive to people of all disabilities. Instead of a wheelchair, she's looking to put up signs with a person with a heart on the stomach. She wants to show that disabilities come in all shapes and sizes, visible or not. What are some ways to reduce the ignorance of others? According to Melanie Savelli, an assistant professor at Southern Connecticut State University, the first thing to do is not judge a book by its cover. Second, we should talk about it. Sharing an experience of how your sprained ankle is actually more of a debilitating problem opens up a conversation about how we should be more thoughtful about others around us. Next is to think positive. Be grateful that the seemingly healthy person doesn't need to walk so long to their car because they could have had a bad flare-up. Also, make sure to note that even though the crutches or wheelchair or brace is gone, the disability does not. And finally, she wants to note that people with invisible disabilities don't take full advantages of services out of fear for being judged. Maybe that guy needs to use a wheelchair to get around, but he doesn't look like he needs one, so he doesn't use it and suffers. She says we need to reduce the stigma and see more representation in media. We need to pave the way for people to not live in fear. This is Nathalia Alport Graham. This is Mariah Aquino Truss. This is Grace Wardock. Disabilities do not define us, but being aware of them makes us human. We do not choose how problems decide to show themselves, but by opening up a dialogue, we can make a couple of people feel more validated about themselves and how they have to live their lives. Thank you.